After speaking about our origins and processes and our feelings about credibility and authenticity, I want to know, how well do you know your audience?
As a musician personally, I don't think I really have a point where I have an audience that I can say there's a trend. My channel's such a weird variety of content does well. So I haven't really gotten to a point where I can gauge my audience personally. So that I can't really answer. Naz will, I think, take the sludge one.
I'm just going to be honest, I don't really, the only thing that I would know about the audience is what the analytics basically tell us. And what I've found is that, especially on SoundCloud, the majority of the people that tune in are artists themselves. So that's as far as it sort of goes for me. And in all honesty, we were talking about the whole, process when it comes to people just releasing the end product. But some of the stuff, if we had to dive into sort of behind the scenes and stuff, when it comes to things like feedback at the stage that, Sludge Underground is on, it's very rare. Something that we don't get on a regular basis. We could literally get maybe someone sending feedback once in 6 months or something, right? So that leads to me only knowing that, okay, the people that listen to the podcast are the artists, or the majority of them being artists as we see on SoundCloud or whatever the case may be. So I'm not in a position to be okay, I know that so-and-so Joe Soap, who is a lawyer somewhere, is tuning in or whatever the case may be. There's only so much that we receive in terms of analytics, and that's what they're pretty much saying right now, is that it's hip-hop artists. Some of them are basically people that, utilize SoundCloud as a platform. You'll find that it's people that are fans maybe of a certain artist. There was a guy who I asked, his name was Zwane. And I'm like, bro, how did you, discover that episode? And he was telling me, he was listening to Chris Snake's music on SoundCloud, and then the Chris Snake's episode popped up as a suggestion. So it's artists and people like that have, sort of interacted with the content in the past. So I'd say it's mainly just, other artists as well that are in the majority when it comes to people that listen.
I don't think I have an answer for this one, honestly. I'm with Nasiphi on this one. Definitely analytics, that's where it's at. It does tell us that it's male and female, and then it goes that far only.
I can't say that I have a specific audience I would say creatives. Also, you get people who you do not even think would be interested in your content will start to dive in your content. So I can't really say that I have a specific audience. Anyone that's willing to listen, anyone that's willing to read, anyone that's willing to look at the content that I have, that's what I literally could just say is part of the journey that I'm on. I'm agreeing with all the gents that we don't have specific audiences, because another thing is that it changes literally every single day because of the amount of content we put on, you never know who's listening to your content. So it's pretty much different.
At this point, I'll just accept, please love me. Just notice me, senpai.
I'm noticing similarities actually, between the audience when it comes to streams and people that tune into episodes or people that read, some of Zama's articles. I'm finding similarities between that and actual sort of attendance when it comes to shows. For example, you'll find that at a metal show, say for example Thorns of Ivory is playing or something, you'll find that the majority of the people in the crowd are other artists as well, other musicians that come and watch and support. So I sort of feel like it's sort of similar in that Zama said, it's creatives, other creatives, that will be listening to the show. And as I said with us, it's also, artists who are also listening to the show and stuff. So I see similarities between the online stuff sort of transferring onto the real life stuff as well.
So then, if your guests and your audience are typically the same people, do you ever get the sense that people are engaging with you simply because of the professional benefits that you might give them, that being the interview?
I think that basically comes with the approach that we're going with. As we said, I forgot how we phrased it. It's sort of throwing out a net and hoping to catch whatever you catch. So it comes as part of the process in terms of how we're doing it. If the people that catch the bait are the people that are within the industries that we're operating in, then it basically boils back to what we were saying, in that it's just all we have to do is just create whatever we create, have the creative freedom that we've got. And if they are the people that want to listen to it for whatever they want to benefit, it's still part of the analytics. It's still part of the whole process. If maybe they relate to the stuff, I don't think all of them would have, the hidden agendas in terms of having something to benefit. You'll find that of the 50 artists that listen, you'll find that maybe 25% of those are actually tuning in because they actually, really enjoy the content or whatever. So yeah, I think it's just part of the process and the way that we do things, and that it's part of the process. Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with someone engaging with your content purely for the fact that they want to be involved in it or they want an interview or anything like that. At the end of the day, they are still engaging with your content and they can potentially give you content. They're still helping your numbers. They're still helping your growth. They're still affecting the algorithm to help you positively in that sense. Whether or not they're doing it to gain something, they're still positively benefiting you in that sense. Obviously, there's a difference between them trying to take advantage of you. But if they're there to try and create content with you, they want to get involved for an interview, they want to be on your show, or they want you to be on their show, it still will positively impact your stats, your figures, your presence in the algorithm, if that makes sense.
Essentially, let's be quite honest here. And I'm touching on what Marcel just said. We all have objectives that we want to meet. I mean, if someone wants an interview and it's also going to kind of benefit you at the end of the day, do it. If not, it is what it is. But as long as they're engaging, like your audience is engaging, or even your guests are engaging with you, that is a way that is beneficial for both of you or beneficial for you. Why not? Let's not also be naive about things. We have to be realistic about everything, that each and every type of content that you have out there, yes, you'll put it out, but there's also that objective that you want people to listen to it or you want people to engage in it. And when they engage in it in a way that is beneficial for both you or your guests or anything of that matter, if not, why not? As long as people are happy. That's all I'm saying, that just achieve the objectives that you need.
Do you think that you would still do this if you got zero feedback? Like if you just didn't know whether or not people were enjoying it or seeing it at all?
I think most of us already have.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was literally going to say that.
That's part of the reason.
Yes.
It literally is. That's exactly what we're going on right now.
Yeah.
You have guests that are amazing, but people won't even engage with you. And you're just like, I can't stop this just because people are not feeling it. You carry on. Because like I said, you've got a specific objective that you want to achieve, So you just need to carry on going with it. Whether or not people will engage with it, the time will come when people will need to engage with it. But as for the type of work that you're going to be putting out, you carry on doing it. It's like what you were asking earlier on. Do we put out a net where, you capture fish or the fish will bite the worm, basically? This is exactly answering that question, that you're putting out your net. If there are no fishies, you carry on, you keep it moving.
A small wave is still a wave. That's it.
Definitely. And, just to add to what Zama was saying, the most amazing thing is, out of the guests that I've had, the ones that I have an expectation that they'll bring in a big pool of numbers, amazing thing that always happens is that they bring the worst numbers. I don't know. It's very strange how it works out. And then you get a person that you do an interview with and you sort of have an expectation, well, this is one of those that is just going to add a number. It's going to be good content, but I really don't think people are going to be interested in something like this. And something amazing will come out of that. Yeah, so you just have to throw the net and someone is going to watch and someone is definitely going to tell someone else to watch. So that's how it works.
And I think you'd be doing it for the wrong reasons. If you stop because people aren't engaging, it's like, then what were you doing this for initially? Which is why I strongly agree with what Zama is saying, that you got to know what your objective is. You don't start something because you want people to approve or you want people to engage. You do it because you want to do it, regardless of whether they engage or not. It's one of the things that keeps you going, your own objective. It can't be determined by whether or not people tune in or not.
On the flip side, if this platform and this content that you create went viral or really got into the mainstream, had its moment, would you consider selling your brand?
Hey, I've thought about that.
Hell no.
But I don't think it's a question that you can answer that quickly, eh? Nasiphi, maybe you'll be able to add here. But I don't know, eh? If it becomes a monster that you never anticipated, the question then becomes, will you be able to keep up with it? Because other than that, it takes on a life of its own. So what do you do when it becomes a monster?
I've never considered it that way until you just brought it up. I never thought of it in that regard.
Obviously, we all have different goals and stuff at this point, because another thing as well with this question is that you never really know until you're faced with that sort of situation. Someone could come through in future and offer Oscar like 50 million rands or something and be like, yo, I want Unfiltered. If he's looking at his current situation at that time, he's like, oh my gosh, I need this 50 million, probably take it or whatever. I personally feel like at this moment in time, I wouldn't. Especially if it's a case where we've gotten the platform to a point where it's sustaining ourselves, it's sustaining other people as well who are involved, within the platform. If we are earning something that is basically, we're able to sort of make ends meet through this, then I really don't see the reason or any reason as to why it should be sold, because, firstly, you're doing something that you enjoy doing, you're earning from it. And if someone comes to you and says, here's 50 million, then it's like, what are you going to do once you've sold it, And there's no guarantees that once you've sold it, that person is going to continue to nurture it and place, as much love and dedication that you did, to keep it going and keep it alive and stuff. So if it is at a point where it's sustaining yourself, it's sustaining the people around you, then I really don't see the need for it to be sold at all. I mean, if Mac G sold, his podcast and it still had like 5,000 sort of listeners, he wouldn't, be earning as much as he's probably earning now that it's on like 300,000 plus, subscribers on YouTube. So, yeah, I wouldn't.
I also wouldn't, to be honest, because it's so funny that Nasiphi is talking about Mac G, because I was literally going to use him as an example. But, Mac G, the one thing that I love about his journey, despite all the scandals that he faces and all that jazz, but the one thing I love about his journey is that he says, use the material or resources that you have. Because I started out with the most crappiest video recorder. When we did our video, it was so bad. And it basically relating to the struggles that he's going through. That's exactly what I'm also going through as well. So he was just basically saying that never give up on what you're doing. And that's something that he hasn't done, till this very moment that he's experiencing right now, where his views are just ridiculous. He gets 500K on each episode that he does. So for him, I think it was just that thing of I'm not going to sell this because it's material that people love. And that's essentially what I see also within the contents, his YouTube video as well, that people are always like, Mac G, no matter what, we love what you're doing. We love that your episodes are authentic, the interviews that you have. And that's the same thing for me, that whenever I do an episode or take out an article on Itheku Connect, it's things that people are really interested in. And it's things that people really love and relate to as well. So I don't think that I would sell it. And also, once you sell it, the vision that you had and the journey that you had along with the platform that you've created, it's no longer going to ever be the same. And the people that have been with you from the beginning of your journey to probably the end will probably be like, this is not the type of content that we want, so we're not going to support it anymore. So that's what I can say about it.
I just sort of like to add on to what Zama was saying as well, and to answer Meagan's question, I feel like with the amount of efforts and work and passion and dedication we put into the platforms, I feel like it could even compare to having a child. A lot of the artists have come through to the show and they mention how, some of the projects that they release, or if you ask them which one is your favorite project, and they'll say, it's like asking to pick your favorite baby. And that's what I like to view it as, in that it's like one of those basically, where it's like the project becomes the baby or the platform becomes the baby. And if someone, it's not worth any price, no one can buy that type thing.
So then what would you say is the essence of your project? how many things could you replace before it becomes something else? Like, could it ever be unfiltered with someone else? What's the anchor?
With my platform, I don't think it would survive if the name changed, because that would change it. I've sort of picked up feedback from the guests that I've had where they'd come back and tell me straight that, well, that was unexpected. That was a very refreshing interview. Maybe if they do this, they do it with every interviewer that they engage with. But for some odd reason, I really believe that it is directed to me and my style of responding and questioning them and how I make them feel around me. So if it had to change, another face had to appear and everything else remained the same, I think people would pick it up and they'd probably lose interest. Maybe this is me just having a bit of confidence here, but honestly, I think that it has a whole lot of it to do with me. So I don't think it would work, no.
I think what would anchor Sludge would be the content, and that, we are interviewing. Obviously, the majority of the people that come on are artists. So I think that would be the main anchor. More specifically, obviously, when it did start, the main focus was on, the local bands and all that. And it has evolved, through time, in terms of now we do get the occasional mainstream artist here and there. We get people who are obviously like Zama, a culture curator. We get people who are within the scene, basically, and it has evolved over time. But what sort of the anchor being there is obviously, chatting to these creators and people who are directly or indirectly involved within the music. I still like to think that it's still very much, artists and people that are within that sort of realm. As a culture curator, Zama's in the know when it comes to working with different artists and interacting with different artists. Oscar has interviewed many, artists, your Sky Wonder and all that there. These are people that we've also been working with who are within that sort of, who have interviewed and spoken to other artists. So I feel like interviews with artists and people within that sort of realm is what would anchor the show. So even if it were a situation where Andile is sort of doing an interview and he's the only host, Meagan is doing an interview and she's the only host, the subject matter is still the same. The type of person that they're talking to is still the same. So I feel like that would be the main sort of anchor for Sludge. Even if you could chop it up, Zama could come in and be the host, but the anchor is still there, and that it's the content and the people, that we're engaging with. What about Itheku Connect, Zama?
I think with Itheku Connect, the one thing that anchors it, and I think this also dives into each and every platform that's on here right now, is authenticity. Be authentic with your content. Don't do it just for jazz, but be authentic with your content. So with podcast episode, you as a person who has understood the journey of Sludge Underground, you'll know the difference as to, no, this type of content, I'm not feeling it. That's one of the morals that Sludge Underground goes by. Same thing with Unfiltered, that basically it's unfiltered because it's authentic content. Same thing with Itheku Connect. It's authentic content. And that's the one thing that I think anchors all of us in our different platforms in our own different ways as well. So I think that without having that authenticity within our platforms, our audience would sort of be not interested in what we're doing, or the people that have been with us through the journey that we've gone on would not be interested in what we have to deliver. So that's pretty much it. And also the name itself, I feel, is one of the most unique names out there, because it's a Zulu and English name, but it has such a special meaning, that as an African, I'm basically connecting myself with people from the world. An African from Durban, I'm connecting with different people from all over the world as well, and also as well in South Africa as well. So yeah, that's pretty much the two components that I feel that would tie into the answer that you guys are basically seeking.
Interesting. So would you rather have a big audience or a close audience?
A close audience is much better because they interact with you, they give you feedback, they tell you if you handle that well. A big audience, I guess they can also do that, yes, but a big audience is too wide, and sometimes you won't find it easy to get any directed feedback because it's going to be such a big variety of it. A smaller, closer, more engaged audience is my kind of people. Yeah.
Same here. Closer audience. I've seen the amounts of craziness a big audience has. So I'll just give you guys an example. I recently had an interview with Usis Dudu Busani Dube, who's a very, very famously well-known author. And her project, basically her book series, got turned into a TV series. So I did a live IG interview with her. The amounts of comments that were coming on, it was crazy. It was so crazy. Like, I couldn't engage with each and every person at a specific time because, the one thing that the audience always looks for is that you engage with them. But it was a lot. And I thought to myself, maybe this is why it's just best that I have a close audience and people that understand what I'm doing. So I'd rather have a close audience because at least you're able to give them the attention that they're looking for, and you're able to give them the type of content that they need as well, or whatever is needed for them to feel satisfied with the type of platform that you have.
Congrats on that one, by the way, Zama. That is really huge, fam.
Thank you so much.
Really massive. But yeah, I agree with what both Oscar and Zama are saying. Like, I don't feel like I can add much more to what they're saying. A smaller, more intimate sort of audience is a lot better. You're able to keep track of what's going on. And yeah, it just feels, more grounded in a way. And you're able to then engage with them as well and reach out to them should there be a need. Whereas if it's a very large sort of audience, you're unable to sort of, like as Zama was saying, you're unable to engage with each person. So, and I also feel like you have just a deeper connection with a smaller audience because you may find that if it's just 10 people that are consistently listening or tuning in or reading an article, down the line, you may even come to know those people personally. And whereas opposed if you have like 10 million people, it's like, you don't really have that sort of connection. You may say, oh, I love my followers, but it's like you don't have that sort of deep connection with them. You sort of love them in essence, but it's not like as deep as a smaller, more intimate sort of, followership. So yeah, I agree with Oscar and Zama on that one.
Do you think it's important to maintain the relationship after you've collaborated with people? Like, do you have a process for keeping up with them beyond the interview?
Yes, I definitely keep in contact with, the guests that I've had, be it maybe they've taken out a new single or they have a new book out. I definitely speak about that. Even refer some new music to them, like the guest that Oscar was speaking about, Todd. I always give him new music that he can just be interested into and also just be in the know of it, know of South African music as well, especially because he's a producer. And producers are people that need to hear, like, what are the latest trends, like what is going on in maybe different types of countries or different types of regions that will give them a broader understanding of how is it that they can try and mix different sounds together. Another person that I do that with also is Mario Winans as well, because I remember on the IG live interview that I had with him, he was just like, look, if you have any recommendations, because we were speaking about Amapian, and he was just like, if you have any recommendations, please send me through any type of artist that you can think of. And this is why we were talking about referrals, and this is where referrals help, because I could have an artist maybe that's from KZN, that's a good Amapiano artist, and then I can just easily be like to Oscar or Todd and say to them, look, guys, this is what you should be jumping on, or listen to this because it will help out with you producing. And you never know with social media because things are so fast and people can link up so quickly. So that's how I play my part in the platform that I have to deliver.
Yeah, I also believe that keeping a connection with your guest or anyone that you might have had an interaction with is great, because sometimes you'll have an interview which is current, but then there's a build-up to it. Like Uzama is making an example right now. I've had a guest that was busy on a project at the moment that I was interviewing him. And obviously, he dropped a whole lot of hints on that interview about what's going to come out on the build-up and what are they busy with. So when it came to a point, or at least when it comes to a point where that project is finally out, you've got your people already waiting for it because they heard about it already. So if you lose connection with that person, it's going to be very hard to catch them back and bring them back in. So you got to keep them in, man. It just works out better that way.
I think it depends. I think it depends on the vibe that you have with the person that you're interviewing. And I think it also depends on the quantity, the number of, people that you get to interact with and talk to. The reality is, what Oscar and Zama are saying, I 100% agree with. It's really important to, keep in touch with the people that you interview and chat to and all that and sustain those relationships. But sometimes you'll find that it's not everyone that you will vibe with to a point that goes beyond that interview. Like, for example, you could link up, with someone and have an interview with them now, but then you'll find that maybe beyond the interview, beyond them being an artist, there isn't really anything that, you guys could sort of maybe chat about, or maybe some points of reference or anything besides the music that they do that could keep you guys in touch. And also you'll find that sometimes as many, no matter how many people you vibe off with or hit it off with, you'll find that if you can't maintain a relationship with every single person. If you have, say, about 20 people that you've interviewed, I feel like it's unrealistic for that person, or you to expect every single one of those 20 people to sustain and maintain a relationship with you. So I think what you can then do is what Oscar and Zama were saying, and that, it doesn't have to be like, you guys meet up for coffee or something like that. As Zama was saying, matter of sending through a referral, once in a while, as Oscar was saying, just checking up on, how the music is going. But I do feel like you don't have to, or I at least feel like you shouldn't feel bad if you aren't able to sustain a relationship with every single person you have. Because the reality is, as Meagan was saying earlier, some people might be on the show not to build a relationship with you as a human being, but because they see it as a platform, that they can gain something from. And maybe you might have someone who's coming on as a guest and you feel like, well, it would be interesting to hear this person's story. And then it doesn't, you have the interview and then there's no relationship after the chat. And I feel like that's perfectly okay. You can't, get along with everyone. And just because you don't maintain that relationship, it also doesn't mean that there's bad blood. It just sort of means that, we came together, we collaborated, we did what we did, and we got the best out of that situation. Just because you don't interact thereafter doesn't mean that there's bad blood.
And what about before the interview? How much preparation goes into that?
On our end, I'd say the preparation is only really just starting now, with the schedule and all that, being with Meagan having come through with that, and basically sort of identifying that there is sort of a lack of representation in certain aspects. So I feel like it is only now in our 5th year running that I feel like there's preparation that would then go into the guests, that we sort of want to get on the show, which is something really cool. And it's just sort of points at, growth and trying to change a few things as well, and identifying where certain things might be lacking. So prior to that, it was literally just vibes, dude. It's literally just there hasn't been any specific thing where it's like, okay, we need to get this group of people. Like, for example, there's never been a thing where we need to sit down and be like, okay, we're going to get 10 white guys on the show, 5 women of color or whatever. No, it's literally just like, hey, I like that band. I really like the way that sounds. Let's have them on. Like a prime example, when Meagan first jumped on, she was like, yo, I really, there's a guy out in Cape Town, Kingslave Boris, makes really dope music. Would be awesome if you had a chat with him. In no way was there a thing where we sort of sat back and we were like, no, well, we can't have him because, we aren't focusing on people from Cape Town or whatever. It's literally just vibes. She liked Kingslave Boris. We made an arrangement. He was on the show. So as I'm saying, I feel like it's only now in the 5th year that after all these years just doing it free vibes, now it's sort of like trying to identify, what might be lacking in certain areas, and then maybe now trying to sort of close that sort of gap type thing. So, yeah.
When I started out and I saw how much of a problem it got me into, this winging it, I'd go into an interview, I'd have a guest, prepare them, we set up a day, I know what they're about, they do music, whatever. So I'm just going to ask them questions. You'll sit with a person, after 3 or 4 questions, it's usually not a lot. 3 or 4 questions will tell you that you're in trouble. because after that, you know that you've hit the brick wall. There's no way that you can move forward. So that brought me to a point where I had to start really doing preparation for a guest. That led me to that because I didn't want to be high and dry on questions. So yes, I do. I do a lot of preparation. I'll ask for a press kit if a person does have. If not, a profile, anything that I can get my hands to. And that's going to be asked for. If it's either than that, it's me going through all of their socials from the eldest pick that they had, bringing it all the way forward. I want to pick up the small details that they will also be surprised when they see the end product. Like, well, how the hell did you find that? Where did you find that? And, it's those things, when you ask them those questions, it surprises them and it makes the interview more alive. It revives it, kind of a thing, You just surprise a person with a question that they absolutely had no idea that you would know. But if you do the research, obviously, it's going to bring you to that. So for me, it's very important. And I do it consistently now. There's no way that I'm going to go into an interview because I've banged my head on the wall and it doesn't look good.
Definitely for me, I research my guests. I even research the type of questions that I'd ask my guests because sometimes, like I had said before, that you want to be authentic with your content. So you don't want to be asking questions that are so usual and things like that, but rather ask them like unusual questions, but also at the same time, suitable questions for them. So for instance, I was speaking about the interview that I had with Sis Dudu, the author. She had mentioned that she doesn't like that question of what is your favorite book or how did you get into writing and everything. And sometimes authors don't like those type of questions because sometimes they'll see something and get inspired and then that's it. And for the audience, it may seem like a lame thing, but for them, that's a part of their journey. That's basically them. So I definitely research the type of questions that I'm going to ask. I research the type of content that they've put out from all of the guests because I need to ensure that I'm not only talking about them as an individual, but the type of work that they've put in. Why is it that that type of work is important to them and things like that as well? So it's so important that you have a set of questions that you're going to ask. And sometimes even if you may have like maybe 5 or 6 questions that you've written down, it opens up another topic onto something that you can also discuss as well. So that helps a lot as well. And other people, like if, for instance, like I always say that if I'm doing an IG live, people will ask questions and I'll be like, okay, I see that Nasiphi has asked a question and this is his question. And then maybe the person who's being interviewed can answer that question. And that forms part of the conversation. So that's how I do things.
So, considering that we are typically informed about our guests, what was a surprising moment for you? Has there ever been an experience where you thought you had someone figured out for the most part, but then they came out of nowhere with an unexpected answer?
Yeah, definitely. I've had an instance like that. I interviewed a very, very famous musician and, her answers were very like what Oscar was saying earlier on, that you have to have a set list of questions and research your guests because some of them can just give you yes or no answers. And you, the interview, have to literally unpack what the artist is all about or who the artist is all about or who the creative is all about. And it becomes so frustrating because it's sort of like pressure for not only you, but the audience busy looking at your content as to how is it that you're going to handle yourself as well. So I've definitely been in that type of situation, but I was able to handle it and make the guests feel comfortable as well as myself as well. Because essentially at the end of the day, you as the interviewer also have to be comfortable with the type of content or the type of questions that you're delivering.
I recall an episode you did a while back now with Mike Wagner, where at that point in time, it was in the initial stages of Sludge. And what was basically happening was I literally just did not prepare at that time. Even now, sometimes I don't prepare, which I can see is something that is bad because Zama, obviously, and Oscar, and I know Meags as well, you guys do a lot of preparation. It's gotten a bit better as time went on. I do try to prepare, a little, but I'm just uncomfortable with the thought of relying fully on it. So even if I'll have, some questions lined up, I'll try to maybe just not use them until maybe it gets to a point where, there's that wall that Oscar was talking about. But back in that Mike Wagner episode, it was one of those where I just went and was just winging it. And what surprised me about that one is how it just went from the general sort of generic stuff to latching onto something, but then he ended up talking about, his folks, I think it was his parents and divorce and growing up, and it started getting really deep within the fields, within the fam and stuff. So I think that is always just one of those where it's like I did not expect for it to sort of go down that path, but I think it was one of the things that made me be like, well, if Mike Wagner was able to open up like that with no preparation on who he is as an artist, one of the reasons why then I continue sort of doing it like that there. Not that I'm saying I recommend it, because obviously, as you guys said, there are many advantages to preparing, but that sort of surprised me with how Mike sort of opened up in an interview that wasn't really structurally planned like that.
Mine is a bit crazy. I was doing an interview of, with my cousin. We call him Boots. His name is Putugu. He's a free thinker. Well, that's what I call the episode after the interview. We had no idea what we were going to talk about. He's into a lot of crazy stuff. So he just likes spilling beans, he talks a whole lot of nonsense, but I enjoyed it. So the interview was about spirituality, and he was telling me how he's not into Christianity, how he was just bashing it actually. And obviously I don't edit or cut stuff out. I want the interview to be seamless. So in one of his answers, he goes on about how Satan is the coolest guy ever, and we are here on earth, and this is the devil's cabin. We basically like his offspring or his kids. Now I was cracking up, and at the same time, I wasn't able to tell him that, well, I think we're going to get a whole lot of people angry here. But obviously, that's him. And if the show is unfiltered, it's unfiltered. I can't cut that out. So that was quite a moment for me. I had to try and control my laughing because the camera was running. So yeah, that was quite a moment.
Sure. So because you like to keep things uncut, are there any instances where you put up a barrier and you're like, okay, I'm not going to publish that? Like, are there any lines that you just won't cross?
On my last interview, not my last one, but second to last, I'm not going to mention the person's name. I think he didn't mean to say what he said, but it had something to do with GBV. And I'm like, oh, okay, that really sounded bad. So I chopped that out. And I'm pretty sure that that's not what he was trying to say, but it obviously sounded like that, because when I played it back, I was like, whoa, that was the limit for me. I had to chop that off and get rid of it.
For us, it's just mainly being artists that maybe may have said or revealed a bit too much. Maybe they've got something planned that they're going to be releasing soon, and then they just overshare, and then it ends up being like, they come back afterwards and like, oh, can you please remove that, because it's not really, wasn't really supposed to disclose. Or if one of the artists we had on was talking about their record label, and then they were like, oh no, but it's sort of like an inside joke, so yeah, can you just remove that part? So it's just the little things that maybe artists share during the chat that maybe they come through and they're like, okay, I shouldn't have said that, can you please just remove it, I'm a bit uncomfortable and all that. So that's generally the stuff that we get when it comes to removing some of the contents. If there's anything controversial that's been said, something similar to what Oscar's guest said, I'll have to really think back to that. Actually, yes, there is one where we had an interview. I'm not going to mention the artist as well, and what came up was he was shooting a music video, and he was basically just saying that, with the way that it was said, it was sort of like, I looked at that and I was like, okay, that might not sit well, because it's just a derogatory term, so I was like, okay, let me just remove that out of the whole thing, because, just in case there may be a listener, someone who is offended by, that term. Yeah, it's just, I think that would be the one. Maybe there are others, but I'll have to think back.
Is there anything else that would make you decide not to publish? Like a quality standard, something like that?
Oh, yeah. It's just that on that quality one, woo, Nasiphi knows the nightmares that I've had. And actually, Lemon Dove also, we've had an interaction over that. I was recording something and the audio just went out the window. So we had to try and resuscitate it, try and bring it back to life. And I almost didn't release that episode because of that. The quality was just not on point. And if I think of another one, there was an angle that I caught on camera that I have no idea if the camera sort of shifted when I sat down after I pressed record, but the whole image sort of got skewed and it blocked the person that I was interviewing, and you could only see the boom of the microphone. So I almost didn't release that one as well, but I end up releasing them anyway.
For me, I'm not going to be very finicky with quality purposes, bro. Like, I honestly feel like as long as people can hear what's being said and see that, okay, Zama was sitting down with Oscar for an interview, or Zama was sitting down with Nasiphi for an interview, I actually don't mind, because the fact that the quality image isn't that great, for me personally, I feel like that's a part of your journey. And eventually you're still going to improve. It's funny that you bring this up because those are one of the factors that actually demotivate a person to putting out their content. I remember I was on Twitter and a lot of people had been complaining about like how YouTubers have crappy quality, you can't understand what they're doing and everything like that. And someone was like, this is one of the reasons why people are so demotivated, because you find that the audience is so strict, but they don't realize that it's a part of their journey. And it's okay to have maybe crappy quality, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be like that the whole time. You're still going to improve on what you're doing anyway. And also, there are other people that deliver such amazing content, but their quality isn't the greatest as well. That's another side of the coin as well. So it really, for me, I don't see it as it being a factor that's like a big thing. If people complain about it, that's their own thing. But I find that within my journey, I'm definitely going to improve on the quality content. And you must just take your time with it, because we don't all have the same type of, financial opportunities. Unfortunately, you work, like I said before, you work with what you've got. So that's how I view the whole thing.
Yeah, I've got a similar view to what Zama is saying. I think there's only ever been 2 episodes that we never published. The one was at the artist's request, because I remember it was an episode that Andile and I think Treasure that were going to be doing the interview for that particular artist. And unfortunately, within the recording, because of where they were, like there were literal chickens in the background. So when I was doing the edit for that, I tried my utmost best to actually try and maneuver and maybe remove entire sections that consisted of these chickens and stuff. And in turn, the 45-minute episode ended up being like 25, 30 minutes. So I sent it to the artist before it was released, and she was just like, you know what, it's cool, but now the chickens and all that. I was like, you know what, it couldn't be helped in that situation. So we both came to an agreement that, you know what we'll do, we'll just re-record and we'll just set everything right. So that is the one episode that wasn't released. And then the other one was I don't know if we can even call him an artist, but I was under the assumption that, okay, it was an artist, but during the interview and some of the things that were said, it just wasn't, something just wasn't connecting. Like it was just very odd, with the way that it turned out. So that is the only other interview that we've never really released. So on the contents, on the quality side, I feel very like much what Zama feels, in that it is part of the process. If you go back to some of the earlier Sludge episodes, if quality is what you focus on, then we may as well just remove everything, up to a certain point, whereas it is very much part of the growth now. And someone who goes back and listens to the first episode is able to then compare it to the quality of this, and will then be able to measure the growth and stuff. So I 100% agree with what Zama is saying.
Also, think of, I know this is such a lame example, but think of like maybe if you want to repair a phone, for instance, those type of videos, look at the quality they have. But the comments are the total opposite. People will be like, thank God. Oh, yes, thank you so much. I was able to repair my phone. Thank you so much for your assistance. That's what's the most important thing, that are you able to relate with what the content is saying? Are you able to deliver what is needed? That's pretty much it, So that's what I mean by sometimes you shouldn't be so hard on yourself. I feel like us as content creators, we are so hard on ourselves because we feel that it has to be perfect. It will never be perfect the way that you want it the first time round. Sometimes you just gotta practice, like I said before, be a scientist, experiment, see what works for you, see what doesn't, and you eventually get into the rhythm of things.
We definitely can't be perfect. Like for me, one of my biggest regrets is the Slicker episode with how that went down. It wasn't recorded over Zoom or anything. It was literally recorded in the car, and the car that I was using unfortunately had like surround sound. So it was literally like it came out so bad. It's so muffled. But it was just sort of like, well, you know what? At the end of the day, the Slicker interview happened. You know, it's not so inaudible to a point where you can't hear it at all. So it was just sort of like, you know what, just sort of take it, bite the bullets and just keep moving, because we can't dwell over it. We need to just keep moving forward. So people can then also just reference now, look back to the Slicker episode and be like, well, the audio quality wasn't great, but then they're able to see that we pushed on beyond that and improved. It's a point of reference type thing.
So after all this, would you subscribe to your own content? Like if it wasn't made by you or one of your friends, would you follow?
I would.
100 times over.
Definitely.
I guess that's an obvious question right there, but yeah, I definitely would. It's awesome, man. That's what I tell myself.
Yeah, definitely. So the answer to that is yes, 100%.
And also just think about it in this way. We were all strangers at one point, up until we saw the content that we delivered. And we then only supported one another, and we then only became friends. So we understand each other's journeys and we understand each other's type of content. So we all subscribe to the different types of contents that are out there, especially our own as well.
Absolutely.
Well, I think today we've actually proved our own concept, because Zama, as you said, so many things needed to happen in order for us to be having this conversation. We're the proof and the pudding, I think. So I'm really grateful for all of you.
Thank you. Thank you, Megs.
No, it's awesome.
We're really grateful to you, Megs. Thanks. Thank you so much. Like, just thank you for getting us together, you know, as creatives and doing this. Thank also, you know, Oscar and Zama. You know, just on a side note, besides just on the creative level with the work that we're doing, I just appreciate you guys as mates. You guys inspire me to do my part in the things that we're all doing. Zama, I'm very much inspired by, you know, the traction that you've gotten in 2021 as well with the growth of Itheku Connect, the platforms that you're getting on. Oscar, the fact that you started this, dude, and that you're still rolling with it, you're inspiring me, you're motivating me. Meagan, your work ethic and just how much you care about Sludge, dude. Flipping love all of you guys. And I just want to say that I wouldn't be where I am right now if it weren't for the influence that you guys have on me. Sludge Underground wouldn't be where it is right now if it weren't for the input that each of you has directly or indirectly. And I really hope to see your guys' platforms continue to grow and whatever you do. And I really hope to still know you guys 20, 50 years down the line.
Yeah, man, it's been really awesome. I also want to take this opportunity to say thank you for getting us together, man. It's been great. I guess we needed this. There's some challenges that we also face on our own, and you have no idea who you're gonna, you know, share this with, because you're not surrounded by people in the same space of creating content. But to share this with people who do understand makes it easier, because, you know, it makes you realize that you're not the only one who's facing these challenges. So it's really encouraging. And it sort of opens a new page for me, because now I know that the gold is right there up front. You know, you keep going. There's no turning back and there's no giving up. I guess that's the whole point. And it only gets better. Like what Zama was saying, it only gets better. The moment you stop, that's where it all tumbles down. And, you know, you even forget the fact that you started. So, yeah, man, it's quite an experience. And I'm loving every part of it. And the fact that you guys have been here, Zama, you have been really amazing. Don't stop doing that magic. And Naz, man, actually, if you guys didn't know, the fact that Unfiltered is here today is because Nasiphi is the guy behind that. He was the inspiration. I was doing radio. I invited him to come and tell me what a podcast is. I had no idea what that was. He came through. he did that interview. When he was done, I was like, I'm starting a podcast immediately after. And that's where Unfiltered started. So it's been great, man. It's really been great.
Yes, from my side, guys, I just want to say thank you for the support. It's one of the reasons why I'm able to push on, and it's always great to have people that understand not only your journey, but also understand your frustrations. There have been plenty of times, Nasiphi can tell you, where I just get annoyed and I'm just like, I can't do this anymore. But, through the motivation that he gives me, he's always like, Zama, just carry on pushing, just carry on going forward. Oscar, it is always a pleasure assisting you the best way that I can. And I'm happy that you are able to grow in your own stride and you are able to just reach as many people as you can within the journey that you're on. Because, this was a dream for you at some stage. And it's always lovely seeing that your dream is coming true. It's always a pleasure. And I'm always happy to assist wherever I can, and that's why I even gave you your props as well. And I said that, I need to give credit to where it's due. I'm such a huge believer in that. Meagan, thank you, Miguel, for just putting us together in this. And I definitely know that through these type of conversations, we are definitely going to be the type of people that are going to change the industry little by little, even if it's through one person. But through the conversations that we're having, we'll be able to change the negative stereotypes that happen and bring them to light, and for people to wake up and make a difference in their own lives. So that's pretty much it. And thank you so much, guys, for always supporting Itheku Connect. I really appreciate it. It literally would not exist without your support. That's all I can say. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
In winding down, I just want us to take a moment to let 2021 go and manifest something for ourselves in the year ahead. If we could all mention one thing that you just want for yourself, something that comes from your own efforts in these projects.
I pray and I hope that I don't cripple myself. I just want to be patient with myself. I think sometimes I really get frustrated at the fact that I try too hard and sometimes I feel like, you know what, I'm tired. I don't want to have that. That's a nightmare that I don't want to face in 2022. And I don't want anyone to go over that. Hopefully that they don't experience that, even the people that I'm speaking to right now. I hope you guys don't go through that nonsense. Just keep going and keep it going.
Well, for me, on my side, what I'd love to manifest is that Itheku Connect gets to become a talk show. All creatives of all walks of life come on and they're able to tell their stories, and I create documentaries as well. That's one thing I definitely would love to manifest for myself, is to have documentaries talking about different types of creators, the journey that they've been on, why their stories are important, and be a shining light to many who need that type of opportunity within their lives. And also for our relationship to be stronger and for us to always be at peace, that even though things may not work out, but there's a reason for it, greater is to come forward for all of us. So those are the things that I'm definitely manifesting, that we take it easy on ourselves, but also realize that when we persist on, it's for a reason, and we are going to just be greater within the types of crafts that we are in.
Yeah, I like to just manifest consistency. That is something that if that had to go out the window, I don't know. Like, I think I would go crazy. So on my end, personally, just for me, I just manifest consistency and just to be able to keep going no matter what, and just to be consistent within, the plans that we all have. For me, main thing, consistency, because I feel like it's one of the most important things to have, and to just not stop, going, echoing what Oscar said there as well, is that, so consistency is what I'm manifesting.
Beautiful, beautiful. So we are asking for patience and abundance and the will to persevere. It's beautiful. I'll add the ask that we may have some rest, because we need that as well. Yes, we definitely do need some rest. It's definitely needed. It's actually part of the process. It's part of, in an interview that we did with Carl, he says that, resting
needs to be part of the schedule. If you've got a monthly schedule or a weekly schedule, rest is very much part of it. It's not like when you're resting, you're not doing anything. You literally have to recharge so that you're able to get back into the full swing of things. So resting is something we have to definitely do.
Just one more question before we all bounce, because this is a question that we ask our guests, and I'd like to address it to all of you guys, especially because you guys are creators, you know. What is the one thing that you feel from all the interviews you've had you would like to change about the industry? Be it music, arts, whatever. What is the one thing from all the interviews that you've done you would like to change about the industry to make it a bit easier for everyone?
So for me, it's to fulfill the initial goal of, Sludge Underground. So for me, my hope is for everyone to get sort of like a piece of the cake when it comes to like the mainstream. So not have all the already mainstream prominent artists, who always get the opportunities sort of just chowing the cake alone, but to obviously get those artists as well that are starting out and make it a lot more accessible to them. Certainly something we're working towards. The more we grow and the more we make different connections with people within the industry, then that means that if we know so-and-so, then it could increase the chances of someone who started making music yesterday and is actually really dope, increases the chances of them also then getting, being put on and creating that sort of portal for the newer artists that don't really get the recognition that they should be getting. So yeah, just off the top of my head.
Absolutely. Making the circle bigger. And, not limiting ourselves as well. I think if there's a possible way for us to grow the network and make it reach more people, it would be so awesome. So I'm with Nasiphi on this one fully. I think that we just need to pioneer on and find ways to make it bigger, man.
Meagan, and you, if there's anything you'd like to add on?
I could ask for a little bit more transparency on how things work and in a format that I could understand.
Okay, sure. So basically, like with the creatives that you interview, all the guests that you have on Sludge Underground, so say for instance, musicians, they complain about maybe there's a lack of funding for them, sponsorships, or maybe they complain about the fact that you have to, like you were speaking earlier on, that if you're not a part of a certain clique, you're not accepted. So those are the type of factors that I'm speaking about, that what do you feel the industry should do or things that should be developed in order to make it acceptable for everyone to get their chance to develop themselves, basically?
Yeah, I think Meagan was saying that, correct me if I'm wrong, Meagan, I think what your answer to that was you'd ask for more transparency within the industry, right?
Yeah, I sometimes struggle to understand how to access an opportunity. People don't necessarily make their criteria or process clear.
Oh.
This is why I'm sort of digging into what the role of the curator is in this environment. Because it's like, is it about a person looking at a submissions inbox and just picking up the ones that they don't mind? Or is it about seeking out other people purposefully for what they have to say? Or maybe it's that everyone has something of interest and it's our job to find it. But yeah, stuff I've been thinking about this.
Sorry about that. Thank you for the clarification, Nasiphi. This whole time I'm thinking she's asking a question. My bad.
Oh no, it's all good, fam. It's all good. What about you, Zama?
For me, the most important thing that I feel that the industry should do is make it acceptable that you should create more room for failure. Don't, like, when I say that, I mean in the sense that just because someone, like I said before, and I've been saying, you're a scientist in a way and you're experimenting and you're busy chopping and changing to see what works out for you and what doesn't. But because of the way that, like Meagan had said, that everything is being looked at effortlessly and it seems like it's perfect, you can't fail. If you fail, that means we're just going to treat you as an outcast, basically. So I feel like with the industry, I feel like there should be more room for failure in order for people to understand that, hey, these are the mistakes that have happened. This is how I was able to pick up myself. And this is what I've done so far, And like what Meagan was saying, that have transparency in what you're saying, because a lot of people take a lot of shortcuts, but they don't say that they've actually taken shortcuts. And they make it seem as if like everything is easy, but it's really not. Like it's a journey on its own. So an example of it could be like, you have a big publication because why you brought followers, for instance. It wasn't something that was organic. And that's where I was talking about, like taking a shortcut in a way, because you wanted maybe more sponsorship or you wanted more things to be done for you and everything like that. So that's what I just basically mean, just transparency and have more room for failure so that other people can understand that it's not easy, but it can be done.
And the transparency, you can easily link with what Meagan is saying about transparency, directly links with what you were talking about, Zama, about having, say, for example, you have an interview and it's not really the best content, but you put it up anyways because you're being transparent. You're showing people that, listen, you can't be perfect, as you were saying, Zama. You being transparent like that, they can show others that, you can't be perfect. Zama, Itheku Connect, they released a certain piece of content that, maybe wasn't aesthetically pleasing, or Sludge Underground released the Slicker episode. It didn't sound so great. That's us being transparent in that, it's not all as easy as it seems or as good as it looks, and mistakes will happen. So you guys are literally also saying something that, links, or what Meagan is saying links to what Zama was saying about being transparent like that and showing people that mistakes can happen and that mistakes are okay and that they're part of the process and the growth.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
All right, guys, let's not keep you guys any longer. It is getting quite late. So, yeah, I guess you'll hit us up when all is well.
Indeed.
Thank you to everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, thanks, guys.
This was Vob.
Have a good one.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye.